Hey guys, it's Tizzy time, and today I have a very special co-host with me today. I'm really excited to jump into conversation with my guest today. But before we jump in, I'll allow my guests to go forward and introduce themselves. So, of course, Yenory, this is your time. Did I pronounce that right?
You
Before
did.
I go forward.
You did.
We love it. We stand. Okay, so I'm gonna let Yenory introduce themselves, and yeah, let's jump into it. I'm excited.
Hola, mis amores. My name is Yenory Pouncil, and I am a fourth generation Garifuna High Priestess, spiritual guide and mentor to iconic Black women entrepreneurs that are committed to living a life of ease and flow, living their boundaries, enjoying their lives, and being the most authentic version of themselves.
Yes, you know how they do in the poetry club. You can't clap. It has to be soft and sensuous. We love it, and I love that too. First of all, full transparency, you are my first Afro Latina guest, so I love that. We're bridging cultures and we're learning more about other beautiful African queens in different cultures and different territories. So I'm excited. Okay.
I'm excited too.
Yes.
Ooh, I'm popping your cherry. Ooh.
You definitely are.
It's a good one.
It's the best one, honestly, because one thing about me, I love building community and I love bridging cultural gaps. I mean, obviously, we're both two beautiful Black queens, but of course, culturally, we may have some differences, but I love to see that gap bridge because I'm sure as much as there's differences, there's way more similarities, So
Facts. 1,000%. I couldn't agree more. And I feel like it's very important for us to come into that space of unity, especially right now where there can be so much around a divide and around what makes us different and what makes us what separates us. I feel like it's a really important time for us to anchor in our similarities, anchor in the things that actually at the root of it all do bring us together, because I feel like that's really where our strength lies, especially in times like this.
Definitely. So full transparency, I know you're one of the people, it sounds like, that disagrees with the TikTok rhetoric about how we're all so different. And then, there's a difference between Caribbean Americans and foundational Black Americans. Yes. Okay. So we agree. The God told me everything. I'm glad we agree.
I mean, I feel like there's a lot that we can talk about, and I don't spend quite a lot of time on TikTok, to be honest. Like, I was just telling you that I'm actually on a social media sabbatical where I'm not on Instagram, I'm not on Twitter or Threads or Facebook. The only platform where I'm creating right now is on YouTube. So I don't consume a lot of the stuff that is on those platforms. And I find that you just got to be attentive to yourself and to your soul and to your spirit. So if you're hearing something that doesn't serve you, you got to first test it within yourself, clock it within yourself, and determine, is this in alignment with me? Be discerning about that, and then decide how you want to leverage that information or use that information. And I think in the era of, y'all, I'm recovering from a cold. Excuse me. In an era where
for the people who may not see you recovering from a cold looks great. Just saying, everybody. Just saying. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Just have to make that clear.
She gives.
Very much.
I would say, when we are in this space where we're constantly digesting information, there's just so much information out there. There's so much content, not enough context. So it's important that we are looking at the context around things when they're being said and why they're being said, and being discerning whether we want to use that information or not. And for me, what's important is to look at what is similar to me and people, because in similarities, we can find unity, we can find a point of connection, we can find a point of agreement, we can find a point of co-creation and collaboration, instead of focusing on what's different. And there's beauty in the differences too. At the same time, that doesn't have to be the focal point, and it doesn't have to be a divisive point either. At least that's how I see it.
I agree with that entirely. And I love how you said, from that difference, creation can be born. But yeah, that was, I'm telling you,
yes.
That's amazing. But it's just so funny how we see it. First of all, I want to talk about how you said, I've just been digesting YouTube. The content that I've been really, filtering myself with was that. And I was like, my first thought was, how does it feel to live a peaceful life? Just.
No, honestly, it feels amazing. I'm the type of person that I've been now on the path of caring for myself and prioritizing myself for 14 years. And I've taken some steps in that process. Things like, I don't get any notifications on my phone. My phone is actually on Do Not Disturb 99% of the time. even if I ain't doing nothing, my is in do not disturb, okay? Because I want to choose when I'm gonna connect with people versus feeling like I have to connect with people when they want to connect with me. Because maybe I'm not in that right headspace. Maybe I don't know what they're gonna be bringing to the table, and I want to feel aligned before I have those conversations. So it is very important for me to be discerning around that. And I found myself, especially earlier in my business, being very reliant on Facebook, being reliant on Instagram, being reliant on these platforms, and feeling like I gotta be on all the time and I gotta be checking and refreshing. What if the fear of missing out was so strong and so intense? And what started to happen was I became very out of alignment. While my business experienced massive financial success, I myself was not well because I was burnt out. I was always feeling like I had to be checking the internet. And then I was taking in a lot of people's projections and insecurities online too, because the hustle culture is not my vibe. Like I'm not like you see me. I'm calm. I'm peace. My brand is
I want
peace and calm.
soft life queen,
You
soft
know,
life.
like I'm not
Yes,
into that anymore. So I feel like it's very important for me to be intentional about what that looks like for me. So stepping outside of those platforms, a huge part of that was because I was just tired of the loudness that was happening on on Facebook, on Instagram, on a lot of these apps, and even Threads, which I really liked at first. And then I was like, no, I gotta go from here too. Like it was
it
cute, but then
became
it
very
wasn't.
toxic quick, right?
It was,
Is
it,
it just me? Yeah, it
it
shifted
just,
very quick. It
yeah.
was.
The
Yes.
switcheroo was very intense and very quick. So I'm like, I'm gonna not be here as well, and I'm gonna give myself a period of time where I'm not exposing myself to that stuff. Because when you experience burnout, especially if you're a business owner, if you're a parent, if you're a spouse, you don't realize how much you have experienced burnout until you exit that situation, and then it can take you years to recover from that. So
Very true.
I'm like, why am I putting myself in a situation where I'm not setting myself up for success? And success to me means being joyful, being at peace, being calm, feeling authentically aligning my life, and not doing the shit I don't want to do. Wait, can I curse on here?
Absolutely, we are grown.
Okay. I'm not doing the shit I don't want to do. So why would I continue to put myself in that situation? Because that doesn't serve me. And I am the architect of my life. So it don't make no sense.
I feel that entirely. And I love the way you describe that. Like to be free from, like you said, people's misconceptions, from,
Hmm.
your own misconceptions about yourself, from,
Yes.
divulging into this type of content. It just puts you in a place of like you said, feeling that burnout.
Hmm.
And,
Hmm.
I love that. One, you don't radiate that at all, but also two, just being able to say like, hey, I've experienced that, or had a proximity to that. And
Yes.
that's not something that I wanted long term for myself. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's something a lot of people want, but also
Hmm.
business owners should realize too. And I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
super sound advice.
Yeah, because a lot of business owners, they don't
Hmm.
feel like they cannot step away from those platforms. Like even as I was telling my business owner friends that I was going to stop engaging in those platforms, they were like, "How you gonna make money, girl?" Like, "Oh my God, I couldn't even think what to do to like if I wasn't on Facebook promoting, if I wasn't on YouTube, on Pinterest, not Pinterest, Instagram promoting, like I wouldn't even know what to do, how I will pay my bills. Like, what are you going to do?" And I feel like that's the biggest question, right? Like we are so reliant on those platforms that we forget that those are like toddlers. These
Right.
platforms are like
Exactly.
babies. There was
Right.
a whole entire civilization happening without these things, and business
I'm
was
telling
happening.
you.
People was making money.
Yes,
There are all these ways,
exactly.
right? So I feel like, and we can get more into that later down the podcast, but like there have been
Definitely.
some challenges for sure. While at the same time, it's worth it because I don't have that like burden and that weight. And also I'm big on authenticity and I have a lot of empathic abilities being a high priestess. So I know when people be lying. So y'all on the internet talking about you doing this and you're doing that. And I know you're not telling the truth. Plus I speak to you behind the scenes. So I know you're not telling the truth. It's just not my vibe.
I get that entirely. And I feel like just having that extra with that,
Mm-hmm.
third eye being
Mm-hmm.
open, let's keep it very
Come on.
let's keep it very open. You know, it a lot of your discernment is like before I even sit around and parlay with you, or even before we have an
Yeah.
exchange, I already know what
Yes.
you go. Yeah. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's important to have too, especially in this world of social media. Everything is a
Yes.
facade, everything is
Yes.
a kind of like a show or a narrative
Mhm.
to fuel
Mhm.
other people into, for lack of a better term, purchasing decisions. But in the
Mhm.
long
Mhm.
run, this image of what you think life should be. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's why I love that, like, certain social platforms. One of my favorite comments, I've seen it on YouTube first, but also now seeing it on like TikTok. And it's like, this guy is rich, and I don't mean money. And I love seeing that
Mhm.
comment because people don't realize, yes, richness comes in being able to go home to your home, whatever it
Mhm.
is, and be in a home element. You
Mhm.
get what I'm
Mhm.
saying? To be
Mhm.
around
Mhm.
people who love you, to have a
Yeah.
cooked meal, and people
Yeah.
think, the newest material thing is that
Yeah.
it. But I love saying that
Yeah.
comment because it's like, yes, don't forget what rich truly is.
Yes.
Don't forget
Yes.
what wholeness really is. But,
Mm.
hopefully the people get back. I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm hoping. But look,
Look,
you can't save
I feel like
everybody.
it's happening. I feel like it's
Hmm.
happening. I feel like as a collective, we're going through this spiritual awakening. I feel like we saw a
Yes,
glimpse of it
truth.
during COVID for sure, when
Yes,
people were at
definitely.
home and they were like, they couldn't go outside, so they had to face themselves. Like, to me, I can already see these things already occurring. Like, people are already tuning into themselves differently, and their idea of luxury is shifting too. Because my idea of luxury used to be five-star hotels and getting the Uber Black XL if I'm going somewhere, because I don't drive, y'all. It's just it was those details, being eating at a Michelin restaurant and stuff. And now the ultimate luxury for me is being joyful in my own body, being at peace with my own
Yes.
spirit, not
You
having
know
to
what,
be anywhere else.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No, no,
off.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say, you know what my favorite thing is, and it's a richness to me, to be able to watch a movie on a rainy day and not have anything else to
Yes.
do and just
Yes.
order in. Like, that's my guilty pleasure. And it's like people take that for granted. And it's like, that was something that was afforded to me when I was a kid that was sick from school, or, it was the
Mm.
weekend. But to me, being around my family during that time where nobody had any other obligations and we could
Mm-hmm.
just sit around and enjoy each other's company,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
something that is no price on that. But,
yeah, yeah.
mhm,
And it doesn't even have to be a guilty pleasure. It can simply be a
right.
pleasure.
I like that. Snatchies. I like that a lot. I love how you're right. Just like it's like the transition for me. I love how we're taking back negative tropes or
Mhm,
stereotypes and making them
mhm,
into positive ones. Even like
mhm.
I seen somebody call them angel eggs instead of deviled eggs, and I'm just like,
Yeah, I love
why
that.
why weren't we calling that from
Yeah.
the beginning?
I love
So
that. I love that. And
mhm.
one of the things that I do, and I like to reframe with my clients, it's how we view this conversation around generational curses. I really invite them to look at the generational gifts, because I feel like there's a lot of conversation about the curse and the curse and the curse. And our people they gave us what they had. People give you what they had. If they had more to give you, they would have given you more. And it's very hard for us to conceptualize that, because we see all the things and we have all the awareness and we have all the words and we have all the definitions now. So it's like, you didn't do this and you didn't do that. And we just forget that there were things that they did give us. And are we paying attention to those things? There were gifts that they did bestow upon us. Are we using those gifts, right? And when you shift from looking at generational curses to observing and embracing your generational gifts, there's no power on those curses anymore, because now you're seeing that you were given the tools to deal with them in the first place.
I agree with that so heavily. And it's like, it wasn't until I got older, my cousin actually came to visit me yesterday. And I was like, please come over. I got chicken in the sink, like a whole chicken. I'm like, let's do like a Sunday dinner type of vibe. It's two of
Oh,
us,
that's
but
nice.
it was really nice. And what I loved about it the most is that, we had lost our grandma a few years back. And
Hmm.
every Sunday we would have like a big chicken, rice and beans, like the whole nine. And it was just nice to really reminisce on that, but also
Hmm.
talk about how the skills she gave us
Yeah.
allowed us to go forward and have something like this. And we laughed because we're like, we're super, our taste buds are super bougie. Like, we
Hmm.
don't play certain tastes or taste buds. And we laugh because we're like, girl, now I'm cutting up onions and peppers. And we're like, before we just, season it with seasoning, no fresh
Hmm.
vegetables. But it's like,
Hmm.
it's crazy how something you judge your past ancestors for, or
Mhm.
relatives, through those
Mhm.
generational gifts,
Yeah.
how they go forward and implement so heavy on
Mhm.
your life.
Mhm. I
It's
love
just
that you're doing that. I love that you and your cousin do that, and I really pray that y'all continue to, like,
I
make
I
it
was trying to say like
a
we should do it week
tradition.
like
Yeah,
yes,
like, at least
monthly.
once a month get together and, cook that whole chicken, because you'd be surprised how many people, like, can't do that. Like, how many people, like, even just,
It's
like,
true.
seeing a, like, whole animal, those of you that eat animals, 'cause I know not everybody be eating, eating animals and stuff, but, like, people
It's
that
true.
do, like, you'd be surprised how many people are not equipped to do those things. And, like, there is this through line from, like, our ancestors to us that it's kind of getting lost because we're just not connecting with these parts of our background and our roots, because we think we're so much, it's beneath us now. We can afford to just get the chicken delivered to our house, so we don't have to know how to clean it, we don't have to know how to do all these things. And a big part of what drives me individually is this connection to our ancestors, this connection to ancestral wisdom, this connection to knowing really who you are, like the embodiment of, if you want to know where you're going, you really do got to know where you're coming from so that you can show up to that with authenticity. And I feel like that's what gets lost for people, because they want to be something that they don't know what it is. So they too busy being something else other than themselves, and they're
Very
trying to
true.
figure out why is it that things are not working out for them. I believe it was Lauren Hill that said the your best version of somebody else is worse than your worst version of yourself, or something like that. No, the worst version of yourself is better than the best version of somebody else that you're being. And I was like, whoo, come on now.
A word, a word. I mean, Lauryn Hill has some bops. I mean, my favorite is "How You Gonna Win If You're Not Right Within,"
I
and a
mean,
word, a
that
word.
Unplugged album, we can talk an entire episode just about that
I
album.
promise
You
you.
gotta find peace of mind. Excuse me. Okay, all right.
Please give me a
Let's
moment,
let's
please,
just let's just take a second. I'm gonna sip some water.
please, because please, I'm just like, I mean, and I was talking to another guest about this. It's like the messaging in music, it's not what it used to be. And not just for people overall, but especially for us as Black women. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I love that we're so arranged where we have multiple women and multi areas of music now, but it's like the messaging is the same. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about driving the fastest car, the guy who buys us all of our things. We're independent, but we still have somebody buying all of our things, which is, to certain
Mm-hmm.
demographics that works. But to
Yeah.
somebody who is at a higher frequency, and I'm going to put that in layman's, you do what you will with that
Mm-hmm.
information to
Mm-hmm.
those who don't
Mm-hmm.
understand. But when you're at a higher frequency, that's not something you want to push forward in your ideals. At least I know that's
Yeah.
my emphasis. And
Yeah.
just hearing about Miss Lauryn Hill, it's like, where do we fall off from women like Queen Latifah, Lauryn Hill,
Mm-hmm.
MC Light? We've had a few women who went forward and really spoke about
Mm-hmm.
messaging that relate.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like,
I feel like there's a bit of a renaissance on it though, because like there
yeah,
is like a
definitely.
pocket of artists that are pretty much around this messaging. Like Janae Aiko is one that comes to mind. She has this really beautiful
Yes.
track called Trigger Mantra. Like I really love that track. There's this other woman. I have an entire playlist called the You Are a Vibe playlist on Spotify. Y'all, I'm about to put y'all on. There's this
Please
other
share.
girl. Her name is Cooks Marie. She has a bunch of songs that are kind of like affirmations. One that is called like I'm Worthy. There's this other one that she got that's called Everything I Need I Already Have Inside of Me. So like this, obviously this other artist, this Black gentleman, his name is Landrell. I love for Landrell. He has an entire album called Self Care, which is basically
Mm.
meditations for each one of the chakras. So there are people out here, Shanti, that are giving us music that are Black, that are like about this
Mm.
life. And I can definitely share with you some
Please
that
do. It's
I
clearly
live
time to
for.
open my,
Um,
because
Tony
clearly I only
Jones.
see one.
Tony Jones is another one. I'm gonna send you the link to this. Tony Jones
Please
is
do.
another one that I love. She has a song called Take Up Space. And like even with my clients, like I share this music with them because they are powerful women, they are Black women, and at the same time, they are also insecure about some things. They don't want to embody the what do you call this? They don't want to embody the stereotype of being an angry Black woman, so they have a very difficult time taking up space because they don't want to feel like, oh, I'm being that angry Black woman again. They don't want to. They don't want to. They don't want to be in that space. So one of the things that I find helpful is to connect with them with music and to share music with them that speaks to us and that enlightens us and that reminds us, like, hey, affirm this over yourself in the moment, and hear from women that are like you, women that have gone through awakenings themselves and now are making music that speaks to that truth. So they are out here. They're a little pocket on, Spotify, but you could find them. I just sent you the link.
Please, thank you. Okay, I love that because clearly I need to open up my mindset and get away from mainstream. No, literally, because the fact that, you do have these artists out here, I'm very familiar with Janae, love her music. It's just, I don't know, her melodies are just very melodic, but also in the
Mm-hmm.
same breath, it's just like she makes you feel secure in yourself, not only
Yeah.
through just the lyrics, but just the sounds, like you said, the frequencies. And I love that. So I definitely have to get in tune with Tony Jones. You said there's another lady called Colt Marie.
Coax Marie, I think is her
Coax
name.
Marie.
Yeah,
Okay.
she has there's also Geminelle is another one. Like
Yes,
if you click you can share the link I share with you with the listeners too of that
definitely. I
playlist, because
have to.
it's literally a bunch of songs that are for that purpose alone. It's like so that I can start the day feeling like a whole vibe, and this is the songs I
Yes,
listen to. And of course, there's some Queen Bee in there because Beyonce
of
does have
course.
she has some tunes that that hit the spot, y'all. So
They
she
do.
is in there. There are also other artists there that you may not have heard of before that are really making music for people that are elevating their vibrations.
I love that. That's amazing. And sometimes that's what you need. I know, like you said, Queen Bee, she'll do it for you. Very, gotta have the Queen Bee. So I feel like that's a perfect segue because you said, going forward, starting your day, just
Yeah.
getting, ready to conquer it as well. I have to ask because we did discuss, talking about some of the things that are, ongoing within you, but also,
Mhm.
just your everyday. So, how do you, as not only a business owner, but as a mom as well, go forward and execute? Like, what is a 9 to 5 for you, and how do you go forward and unplug? Because a lot of people, I've been
Mhm.
hearing it, like, screen time is off as far as like a certain time frame. So, how do you go forward as a business owner? I know you
Mhm.
told us a little bit, but how do
Yeah,
you go
yeah,
forward and conquer that day?
yeah. First of all, I don't even look to conquer my day. I simply flow in my day, to be
I
honest.
love
Like
that.
that's my approach. Like I am that very like go with the flow type of person that sometimes people wonder like how do you get anything done because you don't seem to have any structure happening. That's me. So for me, starting the day, my time starting the day, I don't really have a set time when I start the day. My ideal time will be 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm a morning person. At the same time, I'm very open to what the day asks of me, right? So, like, if the night before I'm staying up later because I'm talking with my husband, or I'm watching some tennis because I'm a big tennis fan and I also play, then I'm okay with that.
Ooh.
Like, I'm not judging myself for that. What's important for me is that when I am waking up in the morning, I do something called in bed gratitude. So, before I even get out of the bed, I am expressing gratitude for something related to my morning. Like I'm expressing gratitude for waking up next to my husband or waking up next to my son because sometimes he gets out of the crib and comes into the bed with me. So I express gratitude for that. I express gratitude for being able to be where I want to be. Like right now, I'm actually living in Honduras, where I'm from originally, and I express gratitude for that because from my bedroom I can see the mountains. So if it's raining in the morning, I express gratitude for the rain. I find something to be grateful for that it's not like a I'm fake grateful for. Like it's legit. Like I'm grateful for this, and I anchor that energy in while my eyes are closed. After that. I like to get into some movement. So I have this thing I teach my clients called the Icon Energy Center, which is essentially like I call it the eighth center. You're familiar with the chakras in the system. And the Icon Energy Center is all about engaging in 4 activities that help you really have a day that you feel really good about. To me, it's about feeling really good about my day. My purpose in life is to feel good. And if I feel good, then everything is well. So one of the first things I do is to be in stillness, have that space for gratitude, have that space for listening to my intuition. I also like to, before I get out of bed, I might have a question I'm asking God to lead me on. I might have a problem that I want a perceived problem that I wanted to address. That I might be like, hey, God, I'm looking to do this YouTube video today. Can you show me what's the best way for me to do this? Can you speak to me through my intuition? And then I listen for whatever comes up. What nudge do I get around that? And then, so the first one is stillness and being able to like listen to my inner voice. The second one is self-reflection. So I love to do some journaling. Literally, my journal is right here. It's always next to me. And I like to reflect. I like to reflect on one question. The question I'm constantly reflecting on. I've been reflecting on this question for about a few years now is, how's my spirit today? And I just journal on how my spirit is doing. Like it may be feeling heavy, may be feeling light, it may be feeling angry, might be feeling upset. I just write down whatever comes up for me so that I can be aware of my own vibration, because people don't realize that emotions are energy in motion. So once you know how your energy is doing, you can easily know that by knowing what emotions are present for you. So I pay attention to what are the emotions that are present within me, because that's the energy that's moving through me. So if there's a lightness in my spirit, then lightness is what I'm going to bring to my day. If there's a heaviness in my spirit, if there's anger or resentment, then anger and resentment is what I'm going to amplify in my day. So I pay attention to that very closely. And then I like to reprogram my mind, and I call this just really keeping things simple by reading something that might be interesting to me, or by listening to a podcast. Sometimes I listen to my own content that I create for my clients, because I am my first client. I'm the first person I mentor. So I listen to my own stuff. I listen to how I break down these concepts. I listen to what my thought process is around them, so that I can remember, because the mind forgets things. And the mind will pick what's familiar over what serves us. So I like to spend time deprogramming myself from all beliefs that I have by reading something. If I am able to run outside, because right now it's rainy season, sometimes I cannot run, but if I can run outside, I will run. And while I'm running, I'll listen to something. I'm really heavy into Neville Goddard right now. So if you're familiar with Neville Goddard, he talks a lot about manifestation. Super cool person to like learn from. I'm really into the Tao. So like as I look at the Tao teachings, like my favorite translation, which I must have in another room because I don't have it right here right now. But like I'll listen to that. See, Neville's The Feeling is the Secret is a book that I highly recommend. If there was only one book I would recommend from Neville Goddard, is The Feeling is the Secret, because it is. And then the last thing I like to do, like I just mentioned just now, is really move my body. My first love through the body is through movement. So whether that is walking for 20 minutes, doing some yoga, there's this creator, I think her name is Yoga with Nico. She's also a DJ on YouTube, and she's doing this 30-day series on like aligning from within. So I started doing that. And it's 15 minutes long. You don't even realize in the 15 minutes already gone. I used to be an avid yoga practitioner, so I'm getting back into my practice. I'm a former pole dance instructor, so I'm doing things to get back into my practice. I'm a former marathoner. I've run 2 marathons. So like I'm really big into movement, and movement is one of the things that helps me move the energy through the body too, because we don't realize that the body keeps the score. Sidebar, that's also a book that I think is a great read. I'm like a library, y'all.
I love
So The
it.
Body Keeps the Score, and it's by this gentleman, his Bessel van der Kolk, and he talks about how the body stores all these memories and things that we go through. And because of that, you know how to react in certain situations. So if you want to shift out of those reactory habits, then you want to release that energy in your body. And that's also why when people do things like yoga, sometimes they get really freaked out because it gets really emotional and they may start crying and they may feel like an overwhelming sensation. It's because they're tugging at some of this core things that have been stored in their body, and through the movement they are releasing that stuff, and he can feel really uncomfortable. So I like to do things that are uncomfortable for me in the morning, because I know that if I can be in the space that feels uncomfortable with joy, then I can be my authentic self with joy, because I know that life is going to be uncomfortable. It's going to feel uncomfortable to say no to people, to disappoint people, and it's important that I'm able to sustain that frequency. So that's
First
really
of
how
all,
I address my day.
First of all, I want to say thank you for that, because like just hearing you break it down, I mean, like I hope everybody have their notepads and their pens.
Y'all get your
I was
journal.
trying not to be rude and start writing down what you do, because maybe
Don't
that's the way I need to start down the more. Oh, this is recorded. I have it.
She's like, I got my.
I'm gonna just make sure every morning at 6 a.m. this comes up, this clip particularly. I wake up and I let my day guide me, because I feel like I
Yes.
love how you said that. It's just, people, like you said, I want to wake up at 6 a.m. People want to go forward and have this ideal setup from morning. Trust me, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., I'm going to do this. And then I wake up at 9 a.m. and I'm like, oh, I'm out of whack. What do
Yeah.
I do?
Yeah.
So I love how you said, sometimes when I have a late night, I'll understand tomorrow is a day where I may not wake up where I want to be at 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's just such sound advice. So thank you for that. I feel like that's when I hear a gym or I see something that is free game, but it should be $1 million game.
I'm giving y'all the things that
Write
my
it down.
clients
I'm
pay me
telling
for,
you.
y'all.
And the book recs too. I mean, like, definitely. I'm like, you guys have the best gifts. And I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
On behalf of me and my listeners, thank you so much
It's
because
my pleasure.
yes, I think that's amazing. And, just going forward and hearing how you use that to guide not only your mind, but your spirit as well. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of people forget, like you said, if you're not moving, you're storing all of that in your body. So I
Yes.
think when people see that they're going very quick during the day or going forward and getting a
Mm-hmm.
fast paced day done, they think that's, releasing that energy. And it
Yeah.
can be, but going forward and also taking time away from those stressful notions or
Mm-hmm.
situations, and you're working out or going forward and
Mm-hmm.
expanding truthfully your body, you have that
Sure.
option to learn more about your spirit and your mind too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
like,
I highly recommend it. And the thing that being focused on my icon energy does for me is that at the end of the day, that's my measure if I had a great day. Did I do one of the things in my icon energy center? I did. Okay, then it's a great day. It doesn't matter if I didn't do other things. It doesn't matter if I didn't hit other things. If that got done, then I am at peace with myself. And it gives me room to not be a slave to the business. It gives me a room to not be a slave to expectations of other people. It gives me a room to really start the day with me and to end the day with me, because I start that day with that embedded gratitude, and then I end that day with embedded gratitude too. So I know, like, I started the day with me and I ended the day with me. I find that a lot of times, and I see this with my clients too, and the women that I work with, these are like freaking badass women. Like, they have multi six-figure businesses, and they are like very smart, and they're leading organizations, and they're being brought in to like help shape the culture of organizations. So they're very competent and very intelligent women. And at the same time, they also have a difficult time prioritizing themselves. They have a difficult time being joyful in who they are being in the world. And they have a difficult
right,
time being okay with not hitting all the items in their list because they are accustomed to checking boxes, right? So a big part of what we do together is to create a baseline. And I want to encourage the listeners to do this too, is have a baseline of what success looks like for you in your day, so that if nothing else gets done, you can have that baseline and know what today was a great day. And the one thing I want to caution you is stop moving the goalposts on yourself. Okay. Because we are notoriously good at this, especially as Black women. We love to move the goalposts on ourselves. So we'll say, my day will be successful if I did this one thing. And then we'll be like, well, if I also did this other thing, and then this other thing, and then this other thing. And next thing we know, we are not positioning ourselves for success. We're not feeling like we are winning because we keep on moving the goalposts on ourselves. That's why it's important to like end the day also with myself, because it just teaches me that I can end the day with me. And I think what I was sharing too was not to move the goalposts on ourselves. I feel like as Black women,
right.
we're really good at moving the goalposts on ourselves and always increasing the standard on ourselves to a point that is unattainable even for ourselves. So one of the things that I like to, excuse me, I like to run my clients off is, it's your life. You get to set up your life for you to win. It's your dream life. You can win in your dream life. You get to win in your dream life. And moving that goalpost on yourself doesn't help you, doesn't bring you that joy. It actually moves it further away from you. So it's something I encourage you all, and you and your audience, as you're taking these tools and putting them into practice, is to let yourself win, and let yourself win with ease. Like, you don't got to be difficult or complicated.
I love that. And I love how you said, like, don't move the goalposts on yourself, because as Black women, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, it's like, once we reached a goal we thought was obtainable at one point, unattainable at one point. The one we have now, we're like looking forward to the next one. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm incomplete because I haven't reached this
Yeah.
goal, but not realizing what we did reach and what that
Yeah.
looked like.
Yeah.
So I love that. I definitely agree with that entirely. And, you know, just hearing how you just detail your day, like that's why I keep saying thank you, because you don't realize how someone's perspective or their view of the world, or even, you know, what they do what they do with their everyday, or the steps they take in life, how much you can adopt from that, or even go
Mm-hmm.
forward and implement into your everyday, you
Yeah.
know. So I love that. And that's why it's important to connect amongst beautiful Black women, but overall as just, you know, entrepreneurs who are
Mm-hmm.
Black, who are
Mm-hmm.
also women as well. Cause like the perspective from, you know, someone who may be working for someone else, or working in an area where they're working for themselves but not as confident as someone who's done the business for a while. It's just like so beautiful to see that we can really just, for lack of a better term, link up and really have discourse surrounding what that looks like.
I
And
love
it
it.
doesn't have to look hard, you know.
It
It
doesn't,
doesn't have to
and I
be
don't
hard.
believe in that. Like right now, I'm actually in the process of honing in my day so that I only do business play for 3 hours a day. That's literally like my ideal would be to do the things I want to do in like 3 hours a day. And at the same time, I'm being really flexible with myself about it. Like I don't believe in putting a cap on how much grace I give myself. So I'm really, really open with like, okay, I'm playing with this, but then how I feel about that, right? And does that really make sense for me and where I am right now? There are some days that I might go more than those 3 hours. And then there are some days that I might not do anything at all. So I am really at peace with like understanding my own inner rhythm and being at peace with that. That's more what I focus and ground myself on is, am I moving in alignment? Do I feel good going from one decision to the next, even if it feels uncomfortable, instead of boxing myself into, I gotta do this between this hours and this hours. And, you know, if I don't do that, then I'm going against myself and all these things. Like, no, I'm very transparent with myself with like, hey, I desire to do this. And if this looks like this, I am okay with that. Like, for example, this conversation I'm having with you, this is like the second thing I think I'm doing today, or I did today. I think the first thing I did was do some thumbnails from my video that I'm going to be dropping later on this week on life after spiritual awakening, not shameless plug.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I've been doing this 4-part series on my YouTube channel on spiritual awakening and what it's like to have a spiritual awakening. What are the signs you're having a spiritual awakening? Last week, I released a video talking about the 4 stages of a spiritual awakening. And then this week, I'm ending the series by talking about what happens after and what are some of the shocking things you don't realize that happen after and why that happens, because I've been through a few rounds of spiritual awakening, so I can talk about these things from my perspective. And I feel like these are the only 2 things I'm doing for the day, right? So having that flexibility, I come from a space where I used to be a director of communications and director of membership relations many years ago. Actually, I used to work around the corner from the White House.
Okay,
And
communications girlies. I love that. I'm a communication girly too. We stand. Oh my God, I love her. Oh my gosh. We
so like
stand.
I know, like I'm used to being in an environment where I had to like manage up, constantly thinking about being 10 steps ahead of the game and what's coming
Absolutely.
up and what's happening with this newsletter and that newsletter. Are we talking to our members about this? And are we communicating this? Your brain is always looking to be 10 steps ahead of the game. And that means you're not
Mm-hmm.
present. And what I'm learning now is unlearning that behavior and being in a place where it's like, I don't have to manage up. I can let God, source energy, the universe do its thing and trust it. And I can be right here. And that's enough.
Love that. I love that. And I love how you put it in perspective. Like, you know, our minds are always 20, 30, 40 paces ahead. And it's like, it is hard to be present. I love that we, you know, relate on that. And it's like, you really can be in a moment where you're like, wow, when do I have time for me? When do I go forward and jot down and I love how you say you journal too. I had a guest on here who journals as well, and she uses journaling to be intentional in your life goals
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, your manifestations. And ever since that conversation with her and now with you as well, it's like journaling is one of those things that people don't realize can really put a mental pause on for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, let me convey some of these million, thousand, 100 million thoughts and put it down on some paper, and the calmness your mind feels after. That's why I've been like trying to journal midday with my verses, and then at night my personal, going forward and doing how I feel about my goals and my dreams and things like that. And it's like I see a difference. I'm like less reactory. I was so overstimulated, Yenory. Some days it would be 6 o'clock and I'm like, I have to nap. I have to go to sleep. If I do not go to sleep. And I found like replacing journaling, having a nice cup of tea, and just like taking a moment. It's again, not a guilty pleasure. You said a pleasure.
Yes, a pleasure.
Innocent pleasure.
I love it. I'm an avid journaler. Like I've been journaling for 20 years. Like I have my journal back to 2004. 2004, and I was in high school. That's the first journal that I think I physically have. I was journaling before then, but that's the one. It's actually right here.
I love the roll, by the way.
Thank you.
It's gorgeous.
This is all about me. It was like a journal.
I love that you still have it. Like,
have it. I still have it.
I love that.
And it goes back to 2004 when I actually wrote this journal. I think somebody had gifted to me for one of my birthdays, and I started, I started writing it down at the time. I was in high school. I was a student, and I literally was filling out the questions, the prompts that I was given to complete it. And now I go back and I look at, well, who was I? Who was that person? And what was she into? And what was it like to be her? And I believe in such power of journaling, because I find that sometimes people get caught up with journaling because they're not asking themselves the right questions. With journaling, the most important thing is that you ask yourself the right questions, because if you're asking yourself things that lead you down a dark path, guess what? You're going to go down a dark path. And if you ask yourself things that lead you towards a path of lightness, you can go through the dark path to get to that light and not get stuck in the darkness. So for me, it's really important that I am always mentoring myself. Like my journals are my own future mentors, because then I could go and I look at them and I can see, okay, what was I thinking about? What was I going through? And that helps inform me, that helps drive me and see how things are going. I like to ask myself 3 questions. Pull out your journals, I'm about to put you on game. Every weekend, like on Friday or Saturdays, I do something called the 7-day recap. And if you end up subscribing to my YouTube channel, you will see me do this live, because I do it live on Fridays. And it's called the 7-day recap. And I ask myself 3 questions. What was my biggest challenges of the week? What were my biggest lessons from the week? And what were my biggest celebrations from the week? And this helps me look at myself from a really objective perspective, where I can look at the challenges and I can see, well, why did that challenge me? What were the things that I had going on? Is this a challenge that I keep on facing week to week? If so, what can I do to address that? I can see some themes, and then I can start to look at what's the root cause of this challenge. Then I like to look at the lessons I'm learning, because oftentimes those challenges are really lessons in disguise. When I look at what I can learn from the challenge, suddenly it becomes really clear why that challenge is even present for me. So what I like to do is look at, why is this a challenge for me, and what are the lessons that I'm learning, and how am I showing up to those lessons? And I want to give you some examples, because I want you to see how simple and practical this can be for you. Because I don't want you to make it complicated. People like to make things complicated and they're not consistent because they make it complicated.
Sure.
So for me, I'm looking at last week. I'll give you an example of one of the biggest challenges I had was too many things on my to-do list. It was just too many things on my to-do list that I had that going on that week. So I had a difficult time feeling like I was getting things done because I had too many things on the to-do list. So by noticing that, this is a challenge, now I know that the lesson here is to put less things on the to-do list. Why am I putting so many things on the to-do list? Why is that important to me? How is that serving me? And one of the lessons that I walked away from was that I can work on my boundaries. And one of my boundaries can be to just do 2 things on my to-do list a day. If I get those 2 things done, then great. Anything else is extra. It's nice, but it's not a requirement of myself. And then my celebrations, an example of a celebration I had was movement. I have an Apple Watch and I track all of my stuff. I'm doing this 2,000 minutes of love challenge I'm putting myself through, and I call it 2,000 icon minutes. So what I like to do is I like to track my minutes for when I'm reading, when I'm moving, when I'm meditating, when I'm journaling, and the intention is to close out the month with 2,000 of those minutes done. accumulating 2,000 minutes of self-care. So this day, I was celebrating that I spent 132 minutes in movement, and it felt good and it felt effortless. So these are the things that I celebrate.
I love that. And those are great celebrations. And I think when you're more gratuitous, that would be the word, yes. When you're more gratuitous about
Gracious.
what you have to, it is gracious.
Grateful? Gracious. I mean,
Grateful?
they all could be words.
I don't know.
We don't have to. This is not the Webster Dictionary podcast. They all can be words.
You're absolutely right. That's what I'm like. Yeah. When you're thankful.
I'm like,
when you're thankful, listen, because one thing about me, I love an AAVE. So I love a colloquialism. So one thing about me is just going forward and hearing you, I feel like you're one speaking to me, because absolutely. When you say you have too many things on your to-do list, I was like, she's talking to you. But I love how you not only broke down how the prompt can be easy for you and being grateful for what you go through and how you go forward and navigate your wins, your losses, your challenges, and your wins. But just going forward and seeing how that can be practical in your everyday. How you talked about, through my physical journey, I reached a benchmark, or through my spiritual journey, I reached a benchmark. I think, yeah, you're giving way too many gems. We're gonna have to start charging, Yenory. But also, I think we're definitely gonna have to start charging. But I think that's amazing advice, because it's when you have those things, you're grateful for when things that are in bigger packages come in, which they will, you have that option to be like, wow, I know how to handle this. I know how to go forward and navigate it. I know how to be really thankful for what this is, versus, oh, how do I get to the next, the next pedestal or the next benchmark? So I love that.
I'm glad. Glad. And I know I mentioned I'm doing 2,000 minutes, right? But that doesn't have to be y'all, whatever your thing is. You may be, I want to do, when I first started meditating almost 10 years ago, actually it's going to be 10 years in March. When I first started meditating, I had 2 minutes. I was like, I could do 2 minutes. I could do a sit down of 2 minutes. And I started with 2-minute meditation. And I have a free community called Inner Harmony. And in Inner Harmony, we're really grounded on something that we call the 2-minute challenge. And it's inspired by that. It's 2 minutes of meditation, 2 minutes of movement, 2 minutes of journaling, and 2 minutes of reflecting. And that is just to get you started. Because if you could do 2 minutes of those things, if in a day you can give yourself 2 minutes, you're gonna create this snowball effect of transformation for yourself, and it's gonna be easy for you. I feel like we have this aversion to things being easy for us, and I like to harness what's easy for me, because if it's effortless for me, I don't have to think about it. That means I'm really, really good at this thing, and it's gonna be really easy to get it done. So I highly recommend meeting yourself where you are, whatever that looks like. Maybe for you, it's not to do 2,000 minutes a month. Maybe for you, it's to do 2 minutes a week. That you're picking one of those things and giving that love to yourself and letting that slowly grow and evolve over time. So it really is about meeting yourself where you are and being graceful and compassionate with yourself with where you are in that journey.
I love that. I love that entirely. And I love how you started and said, it just takes 2 minutes. And if people realize how few 2 minutes are, but how big 2 minutes are at the same time too, you're right, that snowball effect. Next thing you know is going to be, 40 minutes or an hour, or, it's all about intention. And I love that. And I'm definitely going to start implementing that because I'm a person who, again, remember we were talking about this when we first started, the concept of time and how it's social, how it's a social construct. So I believe if I start that 2 minutes, I will snowball myself and eventually be like, no, before I do anything today, I need 45 minutes doing some movement. I need 45. And, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I've seen my mom implement that. Of course, we giving a coin and a trademark to you, of course, Yenory, but of course, just seeing how, people implement that through their everyday. I mean, my mom, she would go to the gym, and for years she went to the gym. But as of recent, she's lost so much weight because not only now has she been getting into the physical sense of it, but the discipline sense of it. So she's like, I can't do anything. I can't go anywhere unless I go to the gym.
Yeah.
I can't eat this because I'm in the gym. And it
Mm-hmm.
just shows how when you really start something, it becomes a dedication all around. So I
Yeah.
love how you
Yeah.
talked about that too.
Congratulations to your mom, like doing that,
Yes.
especially
Oh,
with kids. It's like,
it's her birthday today. So,
happy
gotta
birthday
show her.
to her.
Yes,
Yes,
mom.
shout out to Mama Shanti. Like, we love her and we live for a mom that's like
Yes,
leading by example, especially because
definitely.
it is challenging to put yourself first, especially as a mom. Do you have kids?
No, I don't.
Okay,
I'm the
so
only one out of my friends too who are like, they're like, come on. And I'm like, I
listen,
will be that 41-year-old
take your
or
time.
3-year-old.
Take your time.
That's the thing too.
I
Yeah.
had my
Mhm.
son when I was 33, maybe 33, 34 is when I had my son. And that's considered like, grandma in Spanish culture to have a child
Yes.
at that age.
My family is from, on my dad's side, Barbados, and then
Oh,
my
yeah.
mom is more
So,
southern roots. So yeah, she's already, I want to be a grandma. And I'm just looking at her like, I am still the ripe age of 2018.
yeah,
2018, and I'm not talking about the year. I'm still a teenager. Teen pregnancy is frowned upon. Like, just trying to like
like, I'm not doing
use
that.
the messaging. Yes.
Take your time. I feel like one of the greatest gifts I
Yes.
gave my child was waiting till I was in my 30s to have a kid because I have space. I have bandwidth. I have patience. I have experienced things that have taught me what truly matters. Like I've gone and thought and bopping. So like I don't have a need to do that anymore because
Right,
I've had that
exactly.
experience. So kudos to you for having that awareness and giving yourself the space because I mean, I feel like either way, once you choose to have a child, like it is what it is, it's done, right? At the same
Right,
time, knowing yourself, knowing who you are and like when how you can be a better parent to that kid or how you can be the parent that you want to be, that's so important. So like I really celebrate your awareness around when it makes sense for you and when it doesn't make sense for you and honoring that awareness because it is very easy for people around you to be like, well, you could have it now and you had this and you have that and people have had less with and done more and that doesn't have to be our story. That doesn't have to be our
right,
legacy, right? So I love that you are honoring yourself and you're learning to put these habits in place before you have a kid because it does changes when you have a child. Because one of
right.
the reasons before I had my son, I could spend 2 hours, like my morning routine was 2 hour long, just me, myself doing all my things. And
Yes.
now with him, like, and he just turned 3 last week. That's just
Oh,
not
happy
the case.
birthday.
Thank you. It's not the case. Like, if he wants, I'm a morning person. My husband is not. So he's also a morning person. So he's up with me in the morning. So it's very important that like that's a big part of why I don't get married to like a wake up time. What I am married
Yes.
to is to not using an alarm. I have not used an alarm to wake up in like
Oh my God.
I
That's
don't
why
know
I
how many
asked you,
years.
how is it to live the peaceful life? No alarm.
No
I pray.
alarm. I do
I
not
pray
wake
one
up with an
day.
alarm. There are times when I tell my body we're waking up at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, and my body will wake up without an alarm at 6 o'clock in the morning. So like
I need that.
once you tune yourself and once you tap into your own inner rhythm and your circadian rhythm, all of that stuff, I know it sounds woo woo, y'all, but it works. Let me tell you something.
No,
It works
definitely.
once you are attuned to yourself and to your body. You start to realize that your body does listen to you if you listen to it. Right. So, like, that's a big part of the process. I'm going to say that one more time. Your body will listen
Please. I
to
was about to
you
say
if you
message.
listen to it. Give your body what it's asking for. When your body desires rest, give it rest. When it desires hydration, give it hydration. When it desires joy, give it joy. Like let your body guide you and watch how your body will follow right along with you when it's time to do the thing that feels hard. Your body will do that. I have not used an alarm. I think the last time I used an alarm might have been 4 months ago when I needed to wake up at like at 4 o'clock in the morning because I was flying somewhere. But if it's not like a trip situation, like I do not need an alarm to wake up.
I love that. I pray that on myself. I pray one day I
Love
can
it.
wake up with I think I can too.
You
It's just
can.
like you said, you have to get in tune with your body. Your body will tell you, and I feel like that's a. Can we hear it one more time, please? Because I don't think they
Yes.
heard it.
If you listen to your body will listen to you. Like it's that simple. The hard part is listening though, because especially when you are a business owner, you feel like, oh well, I
Yes.
gotta send. How many times have you been like, I gotta send one more email, and the whole time you holding your pee?
Don't clock me.
How many times you be like, oh, let me just do this real quick, and then your food is waiting for you.
Yenory, don't clock me. You know, the
I'm
other day I said to
saying.
myself, I said, I had made shrimp and grits, and I'm a very big, like, well, it was fish and grits. I'm a very big Southern girly when it comes to certain meals. And, you know, when I made it, I was like, oh, this is going to slap. By the time I finished editing Yenory, it was 11 a.m. 11 p.m. I started editing around 4. The grits were the mashed potato-y grits.
A whole different meal.
Whole different meal. My heart broke, but I was like, I told myself, I said, you will never wait to eat again, especially when you know there's a certain, and it kind of like ties into spirituality too, right?
Yes.
Why wait till your blessing is stale to, you know, listen to God's, you know, basically his advice for you. And I vowed, I said, you know, never again will I be eating late. And yesterday when we made that chicken, we ate maybe 10 minutes after it cooled. But what I'm saying is, like, it's like you said, as a business owner, it can be very, very hard to turn that switch off. It definitely can.
And it's so important that we do, Chanty, because there's something happening in the background in those moments. And I like to bring up those 2 moments because you think I'm talking to you, but I'm also talking to a part of myself that used to do that. And I'm talking to like my current and former clients because they do that too.
Right.
Whenever we are telling ourselves, let me send this real quick, whether it's like 5 minutes or 2 minutes or 30 seconds, you're teaching yourself that you can wait and other people come before you. You're teaching yourself that other people are more important than you and your well-being.
Wow.
So all that time that we are spending editing our videos or editing our podcast, because I have a podcast too and I have my YouTube channel, anytime that we say to ourselves, well, I'm going to come back to me after I'm done with this, we are teaching ourselves that this is more important than me. And then what starts to happen is that pattern of behavior, it becomes familiar. And the way that our brain works, there's something called, I'm about to get a little nerdy with y'all, but you know, here we are. There's something in our brain called neural pathways. And these neural pathways, you want to think about them like trails that take you from point A to point B. And there are certain parts of neural pathways that we have that are very cemented neural pathways. Imagine like if you were going to work and you have your route that you go to work. For those of you that do that, I work in my house, so you know, I guess from my bed to my desk. There's that very like clear path that you take. That would be like a really clear neural pathway where he knows that this thing is happening, we're going this way. And the way that the neural pathways get more clear is through familiarity. The more you do something, the more familiar it becomes. And then there are moments when those neural pathways can become this, so they don't become disconnected, but they're not as connected as they were before. And that's when you stop going down that route. Imagine now you have a new job, so you no longer go down that other route. So now you're learning a new route. So there's a different neural pathway that's being built for you in your mind. And what starts to happen is when you are building a new neural pathway, it's like your gut, imagine, it's like you're going through a trail. And because it hasn't been walked through before, you need a machete so you can clean all the stuff on that trail because there's all this nature on there and you can't really go through it. So you physically got to remove all these things from this trail so you can walk through it. And most people think, well, I can't do this. And the reason they don't realize that, no, I get to learn how to clear this. It's going to take me some effort to clear this. So what we are doing when we are putting ourselves on hold for work, for other people, for other circumstances, we are building a neural pathway where we come second and that comes first. So it's really important that we spot that behavior so that we can build neural pathways that are aligned us prioritizing ourselves. Where, oh, I'm ready to eat. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. It doesn't matter who I'm doing it with. I'm going to eat. I'm thirsty. It doesn't matter where I am and what I'm doing. I'm going to drink water. And I know people that they would never drink water on video. If they were doing like a podcast or something like that, they'll be like, I gotta wait till I'm done. I'm not that type of person. If you were watching this video, you see half of my water bottle already gone because I don't put myself on pause for that thing. Because I'm teaching myself that, hey, I come first. And if I am thirsty, my body's telling me, hey, we need some water. I will give it that water. So that's why it's important for us to pay attention to those nuanced moments. Again, I'm big on context. You may know that it's not a good idea to wait to eat until 11 o'clock, but you may not know the context as to how that impacts your behavior and how that impacts how you show up to yourself. And that's really what I want the listeners to take away from this conversation is you're teaching yourself how you're going to treat yourself at every single moment.
Wow, Yenory, you're dropping so many gems. Like, I'm like, oh
I'm talking a
man,
lot.
like, no, you're dropping so many. And the next one is not on the house. You got to charge them. $19.99 plus tax. No, I love that. Thank you so much,
You're
Yenory.
welcome.
Okay, so we're on our halfway point. This is the point where I have you go forward, like I told you, to quote unquote shamelessly, but we said we're not. It's not a shame.
It's not shame.
It's no shame to righteously plug. I like that one. To righteously plug yourself and go forward and talk about any upcoming events you may have, where people can find you.
Yeah.
Also going forward and, tell people what upcoming, like, I know you were talking a little bit about your content, but any upcoming, features you may have for, not only Black History Month, but for Valentine's Day, upcoming in the spring. This is your time to shine, queen. So I'll let you go.
I live. Okay, so what do I have coming up? So right now, the biggest thing I'm doing, as I shared earlier, is I've left social media and I'm focused on YouTube, which I don't see as a social media platform. YouTube is more of a search engine. And at this point, YouTube is really competing with like Netflix. So it's not even on the same bounds as like those other platforms anymore, right? And I share that with you all because if you are watching or listening to this and you're considering playing on YouTube, I feel like it's a great time for us, especially as Black leaders, to go and play in that space because our voice is really important. And oftentimes, we are the thing we are the person we're looking for, we're searching for. So it's really important that we go and we open ourselves up and we share those things. So on that note, I have my YouTube channel. You can find me at Yenory Pouncil, and I release videos every single week. I have a podcast called the Yenory Pouncil Podcast. In February, I'm excited to welcome season number 6. And in this season, it's going to be really fun because I am going to bring an amazing guest for you that I have been able to work with. I'm actually bringing my husband in to do an episode with me and talk about relationships. We have been married for about over 10 years now, and we have a toddler. And I feel like we have a really healthy partnership. Both of us are on the path of growth and spirituality and openness. I am a high priestess, and he's actually getting ready to go through his initiation as my assistant. So it's a really beautiful partnership that we have where we can co-create together. And I feel that more of that is coming in just our creation, like our life. So I want us to be able to share with people what it's like to be with someone that is also on a path of being awakened, a path of being available and being conscious, because it's not all roses, the accountability be on 10, the boundaries be on 20, and that can be really challenging to navigate. And I feel like it's important for us to talk about those things. So he's going to come on the podcast and talk a little bit about that with me. A few of my former clients and current clients are also going to come on and talk about how they are living a life that brings them joy, being the most authentic version of themselves. If you've never been to my YouTube channel before, the content and context I provide is all around being the most authentic version of you while harnessing ancestral wisdom. I am a huge believer that when you know where you came from, you can show up to your life with a deeper level of joy. I am here to enjoy life. My purpose in life is to be joy. So I'm really committed to doing that at all levels in my career, in my finances, in my relationships, and in everything in between. So for me, it's important that I am sharing my story and I'm being transparent about the things that I've been through in my life in that journey and that experience. Because living a life where you are grounded in spirituality, and I don't mean spirituality in the sense of religion, because to be spiritual, when you look at the root word of spirituality, you find I think it's a Latin word, and it's called spirare, and it means to breathe. So anybody that has a breath is spiritual. It has nothing to do with religion. So because of that, I believe it's important for people to have that context and for me to share my experiences, because I've been through it all. This past year, I actually was on the brink of eviction like 4 times. That was one of the reasons why I moved to Honduras with my family. And these are things that before I would have never talked about because of the shame and because of wanting to like I have it together. If you see me right now, I have a crown on, I have a beautiful robe on. So it's like, well, girl, you getting evicted. What's going on? And that stuff happens. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with, your value as a person. It has to do with the decisions you've made, with the circumstances you're in. And sometimes the place where you are feeling like you're struggling the most is where God wants you to be, so you can grow and you can flourish, so you can bloom wherever you're planted. So that's what I am committed to. As far as events and things like that are coming up, I am looking to host a silent retreat sometime in 2025. If you want to know more about that, I want to encourage you to join my free community. It's called Inner Harmony, and I'm going to give Shanti the link so she can share it with y'all. And it's a space where Black women come to be joyful, where Black women come to express themselves freely, share what they have going on, unhook their emotional bras without fear of judgment, without fear of being treated differently or less than. If you are a woman and you know it's like when you get home after you've been forced to wear a bra, I say forced because I really don't believe in bras like that, y'all. I have one on right now because we're recording, but it's not really my vibe. And you finally unhook those straps, it just feels like a huge release. You can let loose, you can let down. And that's what space I create. I am really gifted at holding space for powerful women, because the more powerful you become, the more people lie to you. And they lie to you because they don't want to lose access to you. And I'm not afraid of losing access to anyone because I know who I am and I know what I bring to the world. So I like to create space where I can witness women and I can hold space for them to witness themselves, not from a position of self-hate, from a position of self-love. And Inner Harmony is where I do that, where I connect with women. And it's a free space because why not? I like to give you value. You see here, if you listen to this conversation, you've gotten a lot of value from me. You've accessed over 14 years of self-awareness, emotional intelligence, spirituality, inner healing. I have a depth of knowledge and I feel gifted to have this knowledge, and I'm grateful that I can share those gifts with others. So that's why Inner Harmony is a space where I can share those with women, and a percentage of those women do come on to work with me as their mentor and their guide. And if that's something that interests you, I have a self-paced experience called the Self-Trust System. It is a 12-month self-paced experience where I walk you through the exact steps that can help you live a life that overflows with joy while being the most authentic version of yourself. I am sharing with you the very thing that has helped me live the life that I desire, that helped me materialize a move from the United States to Honduras in less than 4 months without knowing how I was going to pay for it, while I was in the brink of eviction 4 times. I literally just told you that. And I was able to make that shift and do it with my entire family. And my husband, who's not from Honduras, he's from Flint, Michigan. So there are ways that we can experience life more joyfully if we allow ourselves to do that. And the Self-Trust System is the way that I have learned to do this and that I teach my clients how to do this. Usually this program is about $15,000. And right now, because we are in the early stages of making it a self-paced experience, I've opened doors to it for $3,333 for the first 10 people that join it. So right now we have, I think, 2 people that are like on the pipeline for it. So if you're part of those first 10 people that join it, you can get it at that rate and you get access for an entire year. And then you also get access to having a conversation with me so that I can sit with you and we can talk about where you are, because I do believe in the power of knowing who's in the room with me. I'm not the type of mentor that's going to just leave you out there to the dry. I want to sit with you. I'm going to hold you. I'm going to hold your hand. I'm going to like be there with you through the process as much as I can. And I'm going to make sure that you are doing your part, because once you enroll in you, I'm enrolled in you. I'm going to give you 1,000% as long as you give yourself 1,000%. So I'm the type of mentor that loves to see people win and love to see them experience life in their own terms, and love to know that you're not working when your kid has a game, or that you are freely letting yourself be a parent when you want to be a parent. You're standing up for yourself and having your boundaries, because I know how powerful that is, and I know how uncomfortable it is to also get there. So those are some of the things that I have coming up. You can definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel, Yenory Pouncil. You can join my free community, Inner Harmony. You can choose to work with me over at the Self-Trust System Self-Paced Experience. And it's an experience. This ain't no regular coaching program. This ain't no like course you did before. You have not been held the way I'm gonna hold you. So just know that you're coming to play with the best of the best, because ain't nobody doing what I'm doing the way I do it. And that's on period.
And you better stand on it, clock it. I love it. Yeah, so you guys, you better definitely tap in with Yenory, learn more about her YouTube, of course, her free community, and her healings, which I love the name, by the way. I think that's
Thank
amazing.
you.
And yes, you're welcome. And then, of course, the STEP program as well. You guys definitely reach out to Yenory to learn more information about that. And we definitely will have Yenory back on the platform as well, too. We have to talk more about, of course, and I definitely think the time we should have you is during the springtime where we're talking about,
Yes.
new beginnings and harvest. I think that'd be
Yes.
amazing. And
Yes.
you definitely can go forward and, talk to more people about what that looks like. I'm definitely going to tap in, and I definitely will be subscribing right to your YouTube after we get off, because I definitely am interested heavily in the spiritual awakening series, because
Yes.
that's something that I feel like through any age, you are going to go through those notions and really try to figure out who you are. So I'm like, where were you when I was 23? And I thought,
Listen,
after I graduated, everything was just going to go as Cinderella, perfect
you
job,
and me
perfect
both.
house.
You and me both. And I feel like that's one of the biggest myths around spiritual awakenings is that they only
Very
happen
true.
once. They
Right.
don't. Like you
They
will
don't.
experience multiple spiritual awakenings in your life. You actually have the ability to experience multiple spiritual awakenings in a day if you are available to it. Most people are distracted. Most people don't want to experience it. Most people are too afraid to experience it. So they don't get to be in that frequency. At the same time, any moment can be a spiritual awakening if you let it, to be honest.
That's very true. I love that you said that too. Like, if you're really open and you really are that person very similar to yourself who has that real ingenuity and then also intuitivity. That kind of sounds bad.
Intuitiveness.
Intuition or
Yes. Yes.
intuitiveness, yes. That intuitiveness to go forward and, just see that. I think that's amazing. And honestly, that's like a goal for all of us. That should be a goal for everyone, to be able to have that discernment where you go forward and are open to who gives you access, or who
Yes.
you have access to, or who you give, access to your life. Not only that, but just the innovation to know what that looks like in your everyday. I love that. I love that. I mean, Yenory, thank you so much for jumping on with me today. I mean, like, you gave so many gems. Like, I don't even know how I could pay you back. Like, I don't know. Like, just send me the invoice. Per listener is going to be $10.99 plus tax.
It really is my pleasure, Shanti, and I love what you're doing. I love your openness to these conversations, because I feel that as a collective, we often bury our gifts before we get a chance to enjoy them, because we're not open to them. We're not open to the packaging of them. We're not open to how different it may look than what we had expected. And I believe that what you're doing is so powerful, because you're using your voice to amplify other voices and to share in with your listeners on things that they may not be exposed to. And because they trust you and they believe in you and they believe in what you're sharing with them, they are open to receiving things about themselves, and they are open to receiving their own blessings, right? And how beautiful is that you can choose to utilize your time and your gift and your energy to serve. And that is something I'm really grateful and honored to be a part of. So thank you so much for having me here, because I don't take it for granted. I also have a podcast on my own, so I understand.
Can we plug that, please?
Yes, the Yenory Pouncil Podcast. And it's a video podcast. So if you come on YouTube, you're gonna get to see the video version of it.
Right after this.
It's a very intimate. It's a very intimate vibe, and I acknowledge that. I respect that, because the relationship we have with our audience is our community, really, because there's an audience and there's a community, and I believe that what you have is a community. And the relationship that you have with our community is so beautiful, it's so powerful, and I'm grateful that you have chosen to share it and co-create magic with me today.
Thank you, and I appreciate that so much, Yenory. Like, that's really ultimately my goal, just connecting people with others. And, I have another business as well, 90 Degree Digital, where I aid people, small businesses specifically, at any social media marketing or any, flyers, branding strategy. So, like, my whole goal ultimately is to help others, ultimately, because sometimes, you can learn something from someone else that you may not know, or you can teach someone something that they may not have known. And just to be able to learn from you today, it's just not only a blessing, but honestly, I'm honored, because, there are a bunch of people who are in, what we do and are like, nope, you got to pay for this, or nope, you have to be at this level to connect with me. And we see that on social media, right? But to just be able to, like you said, this is my generational gift. Just being able to learn about so many people and not have any bias. Like it doesn't, if you are a Trump supporter, or if you are an atheist, or if you believe men should pay on the first date, or you believe they shouldn't, or you're a man who believes it's okay to be sensitive and live in his femininity. I love that we have all those different guests who can give their perspective. And just when you have that open perspective in life, you learn so much from so many other people. Everything doesn't have to be, oh, I disagree, and I'm going to make that clear. Sometimes if you just, hate to say it so negatively, but if you just be quiet and shut up, you would realize, people have a lot to offer you, and also teach you. That's the main thing that I love to be able to do, is learn, but also teach. So I appreciate that so much, Yenory.
I appreciate you. I always walk into any circumstance with the awareness of I'm here to de-escalate.
Right.
And that helps me really show up with that calm and that peacefulness that I radiate. And I want to leave your audience with that. Like, step into every single space with the energy of I'm here to de-escalate. I'm here to, love is here because I am here. Calm is here because I am here. Ease is here because I am here. And embodying those values, because that's really what opens doors for you and makes you a magnet for whatever you desire.
I love that. And I love how you said, like, just lead with love, lead with light. Like, I feel like it's super important, like, that you go in, like you said, go into every room with the mindset of de-escalating. But when you go in a room and, you see people, for example, like a better term, with frowns on, or not too welcoming, and you walk in with, and I love to smile. I mean, I know I'm super gummy, but I love to smile and make people's day. And it's like, it's so funny. That's everybody's first compliment to me. Like, I love your smile. You're just so beautiful. And I'll be looking like this, just very lackadaisical, and didn't do too much, or, worry about how I look physically. And somebody will come up to me like, you're so beautiful. And it's like very similar to that rich comment I said earlier. I don't care if you're talking about my physical being, you're talking about my spiritual being. And to say I'm beautiful, it really resonates so deep. So even you saying that, I appreciate that so much, because when people say beauty's only skin deep, that's very true. As far as it goes, like, it's only what you think you look like. But when you're really a person who leads with that love and that light and that de-escalation mindset, you can conquer the world. I think you could just,
beauty is felt. At that point, beauty is felt.
Yes, definitely. And I love that. And I thank you for joining my, not even our podcast today. And, just going forward and leading with that love and light and that openness. And from one queen to another, thank you not only for, jumping on here, but for what you do in a community, what you do for us Black queens internationally. I always wanted to go to Honduras since I heard, like, Left Eye went there. Just to center herself. And it's just like, when we see our queens outside of the United States, I give them so much love and light and prayer, because just to see you guys flourish in a place where you quote unquote cannot, we know that's just the messaging, but it's just so beautiful to see. And, I wish you nothing but, not wish, because we don't wish, I pray that you have nothing but the best in your journey. And I pray that the next time I speak to you, we're only 85 million steps more ahead, and, just continuing your path and your journey. So
thank you. I receive it. And if I'm in this step, it's still also very joyful and grateful to be.
Of course. And that's what I was going to say too. Even if you, and I love that
we
too.
Are, we are where we are.
Because you don't know what place we got better in, because people think, like you said, exactly. And I pray that for you. So Yenory, thank you so much for jumping on. I can't wait for everyone to tune in and listen. And you guys, remember, if you want to learn more about Yenory's podcast, where you can find her YouTube, where you can contact her for any of her, other business ventures, we're going to link her email here too, so you guys can reach out. You guys can also go to her website. But yes, Valkyrie has a website. So you guys can find her anywhere. And I definitely think you guys should tune in and tap in to learn more about what Yenory has to say. I mean, she's been dropping gifts like Santa Claus on Christmas. I just like the metaphor. I thought it was good. But just dropping so many gems. And, again, thank you so much. Like, I can't thank you enough. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Shanti. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.